Are we tapping into the spirit, or are we just giving into the flesh without even a fight? Do we sit in our temptation or remove ourselves immediately? So what do I mean by that? Well, speaking from experience, there'll be, instances where, everything's fine. All of a sudden the enemy plants a thought and shows me an opportunity. He shows me an opportunity to act on that thought. And instantly I'm like, oh man, like the it's like it seemed like a ceasefire, and now the battle just erupted. And I'm just like, oh darn, like, and I am aware of it, and I'm alert, and I'm like, shoot, and I have a choice to make, right? Am I going to put myself in a situation where I can act on this thought, or am I going to remove myself so that I don't even have the opportunity to act on the thought? Because sometimes something I like to always tell people is, I use this example with alcohol, right? Because I used to have an issue with alcohol. I was an alcoholic for a certain amount of years. I was more of a social. I started off as a social drinker, and then I became just like a home drinker. In my private time, late at night after my son would go to bed, I would just drink. Just drink during my prodigal son era, and just drink away my stresses of the week at work and all that stuff, and just get completely drunk. That was me. And I always tell people, don't put yourself in situations that you're not ready for yet. Okay, sometimes you can handle something, and other times you know yourself, right? And what situations trigger you, whatever it may be, and when you're not triggered. And if you're not ready, don't think that you are. So there'd be times where I wouldn't go places because I knew that I may entertain one drink, and that one, I knew that one drink would lead to two and would lead to three. I didn't trust myself, so I didn't put myself in those situations. Now that's in the past. Obviously, I don't deal with that anymore. But there's always other struggles, right? So there'll be times where a thought comes into my head, and I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't be alone right now. I shouldn't be alone right now, because no one will know, no one will see what I'm doing, but God will see what I'm doing. And that's more than enough. I don't care what other people think, but I care what God thinks. So when I say, do we sit in our temptation or remove ourselves immediately? That's what I mean. There have been many times throughout my life where I'm like, okay, you know what? I shouldn't be alone right now, because I don't know, and I don't want to find out if I'm going to give into this or not. So I'm just going to not be alone right now. I'm going to go out, go to the mall. I'm going to, go for a drive. I'm going to go to the park, and be somewhere where I can't sin, be somewhere where I cannot sin. I literally, cannot give into this, because, I'm not alone. And that I view that as holding myself accountable, right? Holding myself accountable to God, because no one may ever find out. God knows. I'm reminded of King David when it is 2 Samuel, where he goes through his whole sin with Bathsheba, and that whole chapter 11, where he goes through that whole ordeal where he sees Bathsheba, he acts on his thoughts, kills her husband, takes her as his own wife after he got her pregnant. And at the end of the chapter, it says, God was not pleased. So David thought he had gotten away with it all. So God sees everything that we're doing. And does that matter to us?